Hello and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia and I have a wonderful show today. Um, I got an old friend coming on and I haven't really had a chance to talk to him in honestly years, and I don't know why we haven't talked in a while. We used to talk a lot, but you know what? He's a great guy. You're gonna love him. He has a background that is so varied. It's amazing. He's been an actor, he's been a wrestler, he's been a comic book inker, a publisher, you name it, he's done it. Um, he has worked on some movies that I don't know you may have heard of, like Spider-Man, Captain America, Heavy Metal, The Avengers. I don't know, maybe some of you've heard of that. But let's bring him on, my good buddy Rusty Gilligan. Hello.
How you doing, Michael? Long
I'm
time
doing
no
great.
see.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't even, like, we haven't really even really talked in a long time, and we used
Well,
to talk like almost daily.
first it was the COVID thing, just knocked everybody out,
Yeah,
and it got to the point where we all kind of hid in the back recesses of our caves, and we didn't
yeah,
really do too much.
yeah.
So
That wasn't a good year for me though. There was a lot of medical things
yeah,
with that year.
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple of medical problems myself.
Mhm.
I obviously have a bad back problem from when I was wrestling.
Mhm.
And recently, I've had problems. I took a fall and I cut my leg up really bad, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Everybody's got something.
Yeah. No, I know. But as long as you're doing well right now, that's all that matters.
Well, I'm here.
Yes, that's what I say every day. I'm here. That's how I try to keep focused.
Yep.
In the Facebook, I'm sorry. Well, one of the Facebook comments, it says Facebook user, but you'll know this guy. His name is Joe Ryan.
Yeah.
He says my good friend Rusty Gilligan. So Joe's a good guy, fan of the show. Hello, Rusty and Michael. Hello, Joe. Thank you for tuning in. Glad you could be here. So, um, Rusty,
Now
I get,
this is
yeah,
this is on YouTube at the same time, right?
YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, but I
Oh,
always
that's great.
forget to update my Twitch, so all my Twitch files have disappeared. Twitch gives you, like, I think 7 days to take whatever video you have and
Oh,
act, and like save it so it saves to the channel. I always forget to just log into Twitch and do that because I'm so on, I'm so what's the word I'm looking for? Invested into YouTube and Facebook over Twitch.
right.
I did Twitch years ago. Actually, I signed up during the pandemic when I was experimenting with streaming, and I found for myself YouTube and Facebook are really where they are. But I do have a couple of people who view me live from Twitch, and I don't want to stop for those
Well,
people.
sure,
So
sure. I don't blame you. You have to
yeah,
keep cultivating your audience. So yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
that's great.
Um, so for those watching who have no clue who you are, Rusty, I know I gave you an intro. I said I named a few things you worked on, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You want to go, any area of your vast
Well,
career?
you know, it's funny because a lot of people ask, and I always say the same thing.
Hmm.
I'm really an entertainer. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
I don't really. I guess maybe I'm a dumbass. I don't really possess the skills to do one thing and do it well. So I have to be a jackass of all trades and do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Um, no, I started out as a child actor
Hmm.
when I was 6. I was on the Broadway stage. I did
Wow.
television. I did radio, voiceover stuff, magazine ads. It was a little different back in the late '60s, early '70s.
Hmm.
And then years later, I took my acting to television and film. Um, I appeared on Little House on the Prairie
Yes.
for a season. I appeared in Disney's Pete's Dragon. I was in a number of movies and television commercials and did guest spots on and on and on. Um, One of the first art jobs I did was I had done some minor sketch work for the film Heavy Metal. back in
Mhm.
'81. And the funny thing was, I was so young, I wasn't allowed to go to the theater to see the final movie when it came out.
Wow.
So we were on vacation in New York, and here I am laying on the floor with a bunch of other kids, and we're watching one of the channels. There used to be, like the way we have HBO now, there used to be stuff like On TV, Select TV. So we were watching, and it would always be the same. They would start their broadcast night at 7 o'clock and go until 3 in the morning, and that was it for cable.
Yeah.
So it came on, and everybody was asleep, and I'm like, guys, look, there's the film I worked on. Nobody would wake up. So here I am, 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, watching the movie. A couple of years after I had already done it, and like, hey, that's what I did. Oh, look at that, that's cool. Blah blah blah. But that's actually not the first time, because I really started young. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of things that I would, that I would get into I couldn't even see or couldn't partake in.
Yeah.
I had done a lot of figure work, because in the beginning, we all start out the same. We do penciling and then, embellishing it from there.
Mhm.
Um, it was more than just silly putty on a newspaper for me. I was trying so hard to do 100 things. Um, but there were times like I had done drawings of, girly drawings, and it would get into magazines, and I couldn't even buy the magazine. One time I had written an article for the Daily News, which is a newspaper in California, and the editor had said, your article won an award. It was about veterans, and veterans and homeless, and on and on and on. So I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So my mother drives me down there, and they were supposed to take my picture and give me the award and put it in the paper. It was the CNPA, the California Newspaper Association, whatever.
Mhm.
So I get down there, and they go, "Where's your father?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? Well, we want to take, his picture for the article." And I so I'm the one that wrote the article. Oh, um, here's your award, and here's your check. Thank you very much. And then
Oh,
what they did was they took a picture of some guy that was in the office, some random guy, probably one of the typesetters, and they put his picture with my name and information underneath it to make it look like it was me.
wow. Wow.
So I wish I still had that, because the guy was very cornball. It was like, we'll buy you lunch if you go ahead and just, take your picture. He just had this look like, you know, it was,
Yeah.
it was very funny. But, yeah, like you said before, I've done a bunch of varied stuff. I was a wrestler with the USWA and the CWL. I wrestled in a couple of other organizations. Um, done a lot of comic work, done a lot of, oh, there's Annabelle. How you doing,
Yeah.
buddy? Done a lot of comic work, done a lot of cards, which is a big passion of mine. I love doing trading cards and comics.
Mhm.
Um, I DJ'd for a little while on the radio, KLOS in Los Angeles. Um, did wrestling commentary with a small organization, on their pay per views. So, just a mixture of a lot of things. And I've also published stuff. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it's I'm an entertainer. I like
Yeah.
to entertain and do things.
That's interesting because, I call myself a cartoonist sometimes, an anime. I use all these different labels, but I'm a storyteller. That's how I view myself because
Right,
I just tell stories. I don't
right,
care how I do it, what medium I do it. I just want to tell stories. You
right.
know.
I find that doing cards, like I like doing cards a lot. So I
Mhm.
take a lot of card jobs. And
So,
oh yeah, I did start out very. I started out actually at 6, and when
yeah.
I was in the Broadway play, I was 7. So there you go. And now I'm barely 10. So I find that a lot of people, when they do cards, they describe themselves as a sketch card artist, or they're a
Mhm.
comic book artist. But if somebody comes up and asks you to do a logo or do a piece of artwork for a shirt, or do a mural on a church wall or something, you're an artist. You don't change your title per job.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. You're a storyteller, so that gives you the prominence of saying, I do this, and this all the way down. I consider myself an entertainer.
Yeah.
Aside from all the stuff that I've done, I've also done things like I've done panels at shows, like
Mhm.
conventions,
Yep.
and I've been a panelist. I've done all kinds of promotion work. I was Santa Claus in the Hollywood Day Parade for Christmas many years ago, 2 years in a row, and I was on TV for hours. And I've won awards from different organizations recently for an animation that I had done, where I had done a voice and done some artwork, production artwork. It all boils together. You
Yeah.
have to have that spark, like you do, being a storyteller, or someone might have as an animator, or someone might have as a comic artist, if that's the way they want to brand themselves.
Yeah.
I feel like if you brand yourself too tightly, you have no propensity to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing. Um, Being an artist is always about evolution.
Mm.
And I think that's something, not just a personal evolution, but the evolution of your audience, and finding what their needs are as you continue. There you go, commercial artist. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I think, without getting all grandiose with the terms and everything, I just
Yeah.
say don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
You know, when I won an award, I won an award from a martial arts organization for doing artwork, and I was a pro wrestler, and on and on and on. So they put it together, and I went to New Jersey, and we did a show, and then during their celebration dinner, awards dinner, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, God rest his soul, from the WWF, and Sifu Cliff Cuffer, who is a martial arts star and a martial arts producer of film. They had given me the award, and they were introducing me, and he's like tripping over, well, he's done artwork, but he's also been a pro wrestler, and blah 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 blah. And I felt like snatching the award out of his hand and saying, okay, there's no time for me to say anything, thanks buddy, bye. you know but I think entertainer covers the best grind of it.
I agree with you. I mean, knowing you for as long as I have known you since 2012.
Oh, okay.
And I remember this, and I'll tell you why I remember this. So I've been working doing comics since 1997,
Hmm.
and I've worked on independence. I've self-published. I've done a bunch of different things. And in 2011, I had my second kidney transplant.
Uh-huh.
And during that time, my medication caused my hand to shake. I mean, I was literally like this. I was on such a high dosage. I could not hold a pencil. I went through a major depression. You know, for someone like me who's been drawing, like I'm literally just holding a pencil right now because it's comfortable in my hand. You know,
Right.
um, for someone like me who's been drawing my entire life, to not be able to hold a pencil and draw was like my best friend just died.
Sure.
I was miserable. And when the medication lowered, and I still shake a little bit. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I still shake a bit. Um, I I started drawing again, and my style changed, but I wasn't 100% happy with it. However, I started doing shows again, and like the second show I did, that's where I met you, and
Hmm.
you gave me my first work since my transplant that
Uh-huh.
got me drawing again and trying to rebuild comic, like starting to remake comics. So I have to thank you for that. Without you, I
Well,
don't know if I
I
would have
you
done
know
that.
you know what, your style back then, I can't speak for your style now, because again, evolving, and I like
Mhm.
what you're doing now.
Thank you.
But your style back then was great, and I enjoyed talking to you.
Mhm.
um, I like helping people in the medium. Like right
Yeah.
now, I'm working on a card set that I'm going to be publishing in the beginning of the next year.
Mhm.
And there's 5 people that have never done any trading card or comic work before, and I have them cast in spots.
Nice.
And we're also doing a radio play where there's going to be about 35 or 40 vocal parts,
Wow.
voiceover parts. And I have 3 or 4 people that have never done anything like that before.
Mhm.
It's almost like a catch 22. To
Mhm.
get work, you need a job, but when you apply for the job, you need to show work that you don't have. So you're like revolving on and on and on and on. And a lot of times you'll run across people and you'll say, you should come in and, do a piece or do a couple of cards or on and on and on. I had a lady probably back then when I had done the Mac in Trouble card set, and she had done sketch cards and she had never done them before.
Mhm.
So I said, we want to do some sketch cards. Now her art style was like graffiti. She
Mhm.
had that tonality where she can do like multiple color layers, and it almost blossoms in front of you. It was very cartoony. It kind of reminded me of like Felix the Cat with a psychedelic background. Let's put it that way. It's like the one dimensional to the multi-dimensional. So I told her, I says, I would love to have you do some cards. So she goes, well, I've never done them before. So I mailed her the cards and talked her through the whole process. She didn't understand the cards were going to be in the packs randomly, the actual original art. She had to mail them back to get them in, on and on and on.
Yeah.
I didn't mind doing it. It didn't, of course, no matter how nice you are, you're always going to go, God, just please get what I'm saying and let's move on. But I don't mind doing that. It wasn't a teaching moment, but in a way it was. Because if you don't get to people and have a good attitude, they're going to learn
Yeah.
from the ones that have a bad attitude.
Yeah.
And I can't stand that. I
Yeah.
first started doing actual comics in the 80s. And I worked with a lot of undergrounds and I worked with a lot of small press. I
Mhm.
also did a lot of commercial art for Comics Buyer's Guide and a number of other publications at the time. And I would get advice all the time, and I would literally shake my head and be like, you know, I like the tip, but I don't like what surrounds it.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea that never work for free, blah, 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 blah. There's ways of making money off of free jobs. I don't
Yeah.
like the idea of don't let them change your style. Well, you're working for them. You do
Yeah.
what they tell you to do, and your style will show through. And
Yeah.
on and on and on without belaboring the point. So I
Yeah.
like the idea of getting to getting to people, helping them out, getting them started, or helping
Mhm.
them progress. I like that a lot, and I've done that with every book and every set that I've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Uh,
you're a teacher,
yeah.
so
Well, I actually I don't really teach anymore, but I still
they found
work.
out about you and kicked you out.
No, I now I well my day job is still in education, but it's more on the administrative side, helping the educators, helping the
That's
instructors, and
that's important.
yeah,
That's great.
I'm using my professional art background and my professional education background to help um, instructors who instruct art. It's for an art. It's for an. I work remotely for an art academy.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to go into. I don't want to name. That's personal stuff. I'm not going to. But I do work remotely as
That's
someone who
awesome.
works with these instructors, and I if I need to, I guide them through problems, or I make sure that things are going right in their virtual classrooms and things. So I'm
Well,
always involved with the instructors, staying with education. I have a love of education, always will, and
yeah.
that actually comes from my art. I think because, like you said, you're always evolving. I think you can't stop learning as an artist,
No.
and you said my style was great, I think was the word you used, which thank you, but back then, and you said you like what I'm doing now. I know I've changed. I know I've improved in some ways, and tomorrow I may improve again. I don't know. I
Right.
mean, I could have a whole. I could see something and my style completely changes, but I know, like, with my animation work, um, that has jumped up in my illustration in the actual drawing style. I've
Hmm.
got more fluidity that I had before. In my comic work, like with my superheroes, I kind of feel I've always been more of a Silver Age style artist, but
Hmm.
sometimes I see more. I'm seeing Bronze Age. I'm seeing Golden. It depends what I'm drawing. Sometimes it's really cartoony. Sometimes it's semi-realistic. I never do realism though. But I want to quickly go to the comments because Joe Ryan said he's part of it. He was talking about the project.
Hmm.
Annibal, what does he say? Sometimes I'm sorry, some I need to zoom in because the screen's far away. It says I met you both at the same show. I believe it was in a hotel in 2012. Um, yeah,
He's thinking of Toys on the Hudson in New Jersey, and I think the show that you're thinking of, Michael, was the Northeast Comic Con that was at that hotel in New York.
no, the con we met at was one of JP's shows. I remember that.
Oh, okay.
It was. I think it was maybe Wayne, the hotel that
Oh
he did
yeah,
on Wayne.
yeah, I know
Wayne.
what. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that. Yeah,
I think that's it.
you and I were sitting next to
Uh,
a couple of other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nick Makoviak, I think,
Hmm.
was there. The Janimal was there.
Yeah.
That's where I met like everybody.
Right.
And like the whole group of people that I'm like friends with and hang out with, um, basically came from like those shows from that era of 2012, 2013. But yeah, then you and I did shows. I remember we did RetroCon together.
Hmm.
That was a fun experience. We said,
I went to the first one and I had a great experience, and then I went to the
mm,
second one and it changed a little bit, and I
mm,
found that the promoter just wasn't nice anymore. Well, there was a husband and wife that ran it.
mm,
I don't know who does it now, but they just started to be a little rude, and I just said, you know what, I'll make more money and have more fun staying at home and putting stuff on eBay.
mm.
Thanks a lot. See you later. And that was it. And I like doing the show. It was a great premise, but it seems that they're more interested in cosplayers and cartoons than anything. So, you do what you do. I've done
Yeah.
psychic shows and I've done UFO shows, things like that, science fiction shows. So,
Mm. Yeah, no,
um,
it's a change. I just did a pulp con this past weekend. Um,
those are
I
great. I
I
love
I
those.
I'm a big fan of pulps. Um, I love I was doing some of these things. I wish I could show it better. These are some of the ones that didn't sell, and I have these little. I just was doing like gold and silver age heroes, trying to get like a old pulp feel. Like this one, I really enjoyed. It's this.
Oh, that's nice.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this into the computer and actually turn it into a larger print now.
Uh huh.
Let's see, what else do I got that I like that I can. Here's a Mandrake the Magician I did just because I love
Oh,
Mandrake so
nice.
much.
I like that.
Thanks. I mean,
That's
listen,
cool.
I'm not going to sit and show everything, but you guys, these are for sale, and you can contact me at any time. $10 plus shipping. But let me move those away. But but anyway, I've done pulp cons, I've done a Christmas con, I do lots of different things, and I just enjoy uh, uh, I enjoy I do enjoy cons, but
Hmm.
since the pandemic, I have been a little nervous. Since cons have come back, I've been a little nervous because of my health issues doing that.
Sure.
And but
I
I still like to
understand
go.
that.
Yeah,
That was it. Actually, my health issues is what stopped me from doing conventions.
yeah.
I started doing conventions. My very first one was in 1982.
Mhm.
I had just graduated high school, and I did the Los Angeles Comic Book and Sci-Fi Convention
Yeah.
in what was it, at the Sunset Hyatt Hotel, Los Angeles, and the legendary Bruce Schwartz was the promoter, and that's the one where I sat next to Jack Kirby, and I loved that show. It was great, and I've gone through a lot of dry periods. Like, okay, there's a couple of years I don't do one, and then all of a sudden I'll start doing it. The past 10 years, I've done a ton of shows. I mean,
Mhm.
we were averaging about 20 dates a year,
Yeah.
and or more. And I my back won't handle it anymore. It's too hard to sit at the table, never sleep at the hotels,
Yeah, I get it.
walking around. I literally go from the car to the table and don't even bother looking at the rest of the show,
Yeah.
and then go right back to the hotel and take, pain relievers for the rest of the night. I
Yeah.
don't think it's a good experience.
Yeah, no, I get you. I listen. I have back issues myself. I have arthritis in my hips and knees, and I don't know why I'm sitting. We can sit and I guess have all what are our ailments today? But like all last week, I was walking kind of hunched over and like living on Tylenol.
Right.
It's how I had to do it. And right now I even have a pillow on my chair for my back and a small side pillow, to kind of help when I lean. So
That's all right.
it's
I'm sitting on a blanket and my leg is bandaged up from toe to knee. So there
Oh
you
my
go.
God. Let's just get back to some comments. So Alex Acosta says, "Did he miss anything?" That was about 10 minutes ago. It looks like. So only about 10 minutes or 15 minutes of the show. Nothing you may not know if you know Rusty
Yeah.
already.
I sang some folk songs
Yeah,
and I did a magic trick. I made an egg disappear up my
yeah.
nose, but you didn't miss anything.
And then Annabelle says, "What is it? You write so much. I have to always pop it up. I saw the toy show. I saw you at the toy show too, Rusty. That was the second meeting. I actually had a table with Jonathan there.
Oh, okay.
Jonathan's an awesome guy. Got to get him on the show. Um, so yeah, but so let's get into some comic talk.
Okay.
Let's talk about some of your. So you've worked with quite a few people.
Hmm.
Um, and you've created your own stories, your books. We will get to the. You said you've worked with public domain characters, and
Hmm.
I'm a huge supporter of public domain.
Hmm.
I and I've had people on the show here, specifically Jay Piscopo, if you know who he is,
Yep.
um, talking about public domain, and he should be coming on soon. He's got a project, so we'll get to that because I know you have a love and I have a love, and I'm probably that might take a while. So, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of your characters. So before we get into who you're probably best known for, which are the Cats Mac and Trouble, which I got to work on. Um, what was some of your first like comic jobs, and what was some of the first stuff you did that was your own work?
Well, that's a big one. The first comic jobs that I had gotten, I had done artwork for Comics Buyer's Guide. The
Mm-hmm.
very first job that I had, I actually got from Stan Lee. I had done a couple of pinups for Mighty World of Marvel, which was a UK publication. And what they did was is they would swap in place of American ads. They would swap in. So I remember doing a pinup of like Captain America jumping with his shield in front of like Big Ben in the background. Um, that actually relates to the Jack Kirby appearance that I was part of. I was sitting next to him at the show at the hotel in California, and I showed him some of my stuff. You know, I was there for heavy metal, and I put on the table like sketches that I had done. See, we weren't allowed to keep anything.
Mm-hmm.
There was no uh, Xerox machines, cell phone, nothing. So what I had to do was is I actually took pictures of everything with Polaroids, and I would redo and retrace a lot of the pictures and put them on the table. I was like more of a museum piece than a artist at that show because I really didn't have anything to sell. So I showed him the stuff that I had, and he's like, you can refine this, and the chin needs something, and you need to. You can't have this. You have to have this, and on and on and on. That's the way he would explain it. So he goes, "Have you ever tried inking?" No, all I knew was penciling at the time, and I would go to an inker and blah blah blah. And at that time, no scanners, no computers,
Yeah.
so you have to send it through the mail and hope it gets there unwrinkled, not dominated by coffee or cat paws or whatever. So he gave me a swatch of Bristol board, and he gave me a crow quill, which is an inking tool. And I went ahead and I started, you know how you do it.
Yeah.
It's like a crow, and wider the more you press, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
I won't go into detail. So I went ahead and I did that, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't know anybody did this. Oh, yeah, you can use pens. I've used toothpicks. I've used needles. I've used ladies' nylons, on and on and on for effects. And, he showed me the Kirby Crackle, Thor and Silver Surfer, on and on and on. I'm like, dude, this blows my mind.
Yeah.
I went home. First thing I did was get a Koh-i-Noor inking pen set, and I got Winsor Newton pens and Doc Martin colors, and on and
Yeah.
on and on. And within 2 years, I was inking mostly only. I do sketch card work now, which obviously pencil and ink, but the it just blew my mind. If it wasn't for sitting next to him, I never would have gone on to do stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I had done commercial work for advertising firms. I had done work for Comics Buyer's Guide, and then when Stan came along, I did those pinups. After that, I published a magazine called Maine Magazine for a couple of years, and did a lot of artwork and a lot of writing for that. We were basically a small press version of Wizard magazine, and we actually outsold them a couple of months in a row and won awards from Diamond and Capitol, which were
Wow.
the distributors at the
Yeah.
time. And we were nominated for an Eagle Award, and a couple of other awards, which were nice. Um, we published a comic book called Test Drive, which was the industry's first multi crossover publication, because in that we had 13 different publishers that lent their characters to pinups and short stories,
Wow.
professional artists and amateur artists. We had Rob Liefeld, Rich Buckler, God rest his
Wow.
soul, Gil Kane, who also passed away.
Yeah.
Uh, just so many, just so many. I couldn't even go on.
Yeah.
Then we did an adult version, which was called Sex Drive, and that had about 10 or 11 publishers from that genre in there. And then right after that, we published a card set called Wanted Women, which was a sexy card set. And that was the first and only crossover trading card set that there's ever been. There's never been another one since. We had 10 different excuse me, 10 different trading card publishers that actually lent their images to the set, and their information was on the back. So we had companies like Clubhouse Diamonds, Hot Stuff, Playboy, Penthouse. As a matter of fact, we actually heard from Playboy. It was the first time they ever crossed over with Penthouse, because they usually kept them at hand's length.
Mhm.
And it was the first time they ever agreed to do that. We had unpublished pictures of Betty Page. Pam Anderson was in it, on and on and on. But it was the first time. And since then, whenever I publish something, I always try to come up with something that's never been done before,
Yeah.
or something unusual, like this new card set that's coming out next year. There's three things in the set that have either never been done before or never been done to this level, which is great. So, I just enjoy, doing that work. But you
Yeah.
were asking about comics and stuff. Um, I worked on books for Image. I worked on Big Bang books, which I love the retro Big Bang stuff.
Mhm.
And I've done storyboarding for movies, and I've done production artwork for movies. like you said before, Spider-Man 2 and 3, Avengers, Captain America. I did stuff for Walking Dead
I was
television.
actually going to ask. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, just so the audience knows, like, what was your contribution to like the Spider-Man, Captain America, Avengers, like all that?
Production art is kind of an odd term.
Hmm.
Uh, what you really do is you're a utility artist. It's kind of like there's a knife in a drawer. You can cut with it, you can scrape with it, you can sharpen it, hone it one way or the other. It's pry something with it. So when you do something like production art, you're a utility artist. For Spider-Man 2 and 3, I had done artwork that helped them frame in their minds what the character was about.
Hmm.
When one came along, he was a little bit more brutish. But when the artist that I had worked with at the time was Tim Stiles, who I don't know where he is now. He seems to have left the industry. But and we did a lot of work for Image at the time, which is how we got onto it. So I wish I had the picture. Oh, it's actually in the edit clip. The
The
picture.
the Spider-Man piece.
Yeah, that
Hold
Spider-Man
on. Let
piece.
me make that full screen right here.
All right. I guess you can't blow it up,
Oh,
but
I'm going to. I'm going to zoom in.
okay. In that picture, if you look at his feet,
Hmm. The thing
uh,
not showing right now. I know.
well, anyway, but if you look at his feet, there's lines to show that he's more like a skater and a dancer. He's very lithe. In the first movie, they didn't really do justice to his movements. His shoulders kind of pushed out a little bit, and his movements, whoever was in the costume, the movements were more like a linebacker. We tried to show that in this one, he's a little, like you can see by his torso, he's a little twisted.
Yeah.
And his movements go along those lines.
Hmm.
He dances like a boxer, and he's very fluid in his movements. So we kept that going, and we also did shots for the wardrobe department. They would get it, and they would say, oh, well, this guy looks good in a red top, no, a green top, no, a blue top, well, this looks good in stripes, things along those lines. For Captain America, I did kind of the same thing. um, Mostly brought into that because of my golden age and public domain knowledge, um, and that spilled over into Avengers, which was nice. Basically, the fluidity, the movement, the stylings of the characters. I wish I had the ability of showing it, but unfortunately, most of the time when you do this stuff, you're not allowed to keep anything. You have to turn in everything.
Yeah.
I did this really nice Hulk piece that showed like the veins in his neck and his fist up, and it was all like a drag. um, but when you do production art, it could be anything. Like I said, you're a utility artist. A movie I had done a couple of years back, a horror movie. I had done artwork for a movie called Succubus, and it was a horror movie and starring Mel Heflin, who's a scream queen. And I drew a picture of her, and I drew a picture of what a succubus would look like, a winged demon, and the horns on their head, and what the wings look like. So as the credits are scrolling in the movie, they would like have the picture, and then the credits would continue, and then the picture would be there again. Um, there have been some television shows where I've designed badges for like the police or license plates to go on cars,
Yeah.
special things. Um, for small films, a lot of times I give them a lot of secrets of how they can get away with things. Like to make a license plate look like it's metal, you print something on a piece of paper, crumple it up, and then what you do is you glue it flat to a cardboard, and then you wrap it tightly in saran wrap. And when you put it on and it's in a scene, it literally looks like a metal license plate. You can't
Hmm.
tell the difference. I mean, obviously, if you get a foot away, then you're going to be like, oh, I could have made that in grandma's kitchen, but but more than a foot away, it looks perfect.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. I've actually drawn on a Hershey's silver wrapper for a Hershey's Kiss and wrapped it around an eggshell, a broken eggshell, and made a badge out of it for somebody to wear. So it literally looks like a badge. When you're a
Mm.
mile away, you just see the silver thing on the chest.
Yeah.
So production art is kind of like, what can you do for us right this minute?
Yeah.
For the movie Bigfoot, I did just recently. What was that for? Absurd Productions. I did the poster, which wound up being the DVD cover, and I also did wanted posters that looked like it was drawn by, a regular hunter, and they were hung up throughout the movie as wanted posters. So,
Nice.
which is really cool. I enjoy that. Lately, I've been doing a lot of voice work for movies and for productions, which is something that I also really enjoy. It's kind of a split your time type of thing.
Yeah.
So you're working and then you're like, oh, I'm going to take a break. What are you going to do, while you're taking a break? Oh, some people will eat or watch TV. I just pull up another job and start working on it, like something different.
Yeah.
So today I went from doing baseball cards to recording a voice for a cartoon in the UK. And that was it, that was my break. So
Yeah.
I enjoy that. But again, that goes back to the entertainer
I was gonna
part.
say, yeah, that's really the entertainer in you. And if it's the voice you told me about, I can't wait to hear it for the character. You mentioned it to me a couple of days ago when we were chatting, but I don't want to give anything away.
Well,
Uh,
I can tell you some of the stuff that real quick. I
yeah.
was the voice of a banana for the Mr. Carrot Man cartoon series, which is in the UK.
Mhm.
I played both Santa Claus, a little boy, and a dinosaur in a Christmas production that's going to be shown also in the UK. Um, it's a channel called Bombitos, which is my friend Michael Doss. He's the producer over there. We've actually done a lot of stuff. I've done Batman, the Joker, and background voices for some of the Disney shorts, like the Marvel shorts. I played an ambulance driver and Aquaman's father in a Justice League short, which was kind of funny. And coming up, I'm doing two appearances, one in a horror movie where I'm going to be like screaming and yelling and, crappy voice, in other words, for a horror movie. My secret to that is I do the job and then I never watch the outcome because I don't like horror.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm not
so
a horror fan either.
yeah, I've seen enough in real life. I don't want to see,
Yeah.
on the silver screen. And then we have a radio play that's coming up along with our new card set. It's basically like a love letter to the golden age. You'll see golden age, like we were talking about, public domain
Yeah.
characters, along with a mixture of my characters.
Mhm.
And we have newscasters and paper boys, policemen, people on the street screaming. There's fake commercials. It's all done in a realistic sense. It's like this is a swatch of like 40s radio.
That's
So
gonna be
picture
awesome.
something like the War of the Worlds, but more
Mhm.
of like superheroes in the 40s.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When we have some nice celebrities that are going to be taking part too. We're going to be making an announcement in December. So I'll make sure that I send it to you.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm gonna help promote this as soon as it comes out,
Well, I
Rusty.
appreciate that. This
Yeah.
is going to be really fun, and I'd like to invite you to do something too.
Yeah. Actually, I think we discussed it. I won't say anything we discussed because obviously until things happen, or I'm sorry, just a bunch of stuff just fell underneath my,
Oh
my
no.
table here. It's all on my feet. Give me 1 second just to move it out of the way. I have very little room in this studio, and one of my portfolios here just fell over, and
Nah.
everything that was lined up
See, that
against
could have been a segue. That could have been a great segue. One
I'm
of my
sorry.
portfolios fell over. I should show you this. It's got
I,
all the art that
I'll
I'm
be
selling.
honest. I have no clue what's in there right now. I have no clue. Hold on. Got more to move. So I have this long table. It's about a little over 5 feet, I would say. In front of me is my Cintiq that I do most of my work on. I have a monitor to the upper left of me, and my laptop is on a shelf with the monitor, which is what I'm looking at right now, where you're on. Now, next to that setup, I have two monitors, a small computer, and another keyboard and stuff for my day job work.
Uh-huh.
And so I just have like things that were next to me are now under the table
Oh,
from when I
jeez.
started. So now I'm like running out of room everywhere.
Well,
Um,
my setup is far worse than yours. I have the laptop, all of my art equipment, and
yeah.
the desktop all within 3 feet. And I walk into the studio sideways and sit down, and I have just enough room to swivel in the chair.
Wow. No, that's I'm sorry. I just found some stuff I've been looking for. That's good enough. I found some
That's a
scripts.
whole other show.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just found a bunch of scripts. No, but Rusty, I understand. I was in tight places at different times, and it's a pain. But listen, as long as we can get our work done, that's
Right.
all that matters.
For
Um,
me, my problem was is I had been sick for a long time,
yeah.
which is how I found Mac.
Mhm.
And I always say Mac saved me.
Mhm.
And because I was upstairs, I was in bed.
Yeah.
The studio here was completely, it was a cool looking studio, but then it got filled with boxes and nonsense because I was in bed the whole time.
Yeah.
So my wife brought home this cat, and that was Mac. And he had a hard time walking, so I had to teach him how to walk. I would hold his legs and let him strain against it to build up his muscle.
Wow.
And I actually got out of bed and designed the project that he was in
Hmm.
with the cat Trouble that came along after. And that's how I got started on that. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for Mac, I would have probably been in bed and wasted away. I
Yeah.
still,
Wow.
at times, I still can't believe that I'm up
Yeah.
because I still have the same problems, but
Hmm.
I didn't let it stop me before I did. So
Yeah. Well, I will say this about animals. When you have an animal, they they can sense things like with you. And I know you're saying you taught Mac how to walk, but I'm like, he was there. He came at the time that you needed him, and he needed
right,
you, and and you helped each other out. I used to have two cats. One passed away in 2016. I'm still very upset by that because he was my studio cat. He was never within
right,
outside of 10 feet away from me when I was in the house. Um, but we also have a cat, Sesame, and I had surgery. I'm not going to go into it on the air here, but I had surgery back in June. And one of the ways to heal was to get up and walk.
hmm,
So what he started doing when I was able to feed him again, and my wife didn't have to be the only one feeding him, he would I would put the bowl down, he would look up at me, meow, and then I'd have to walk around my entire apartment. He would take me on like a tour of my apartment, go into different rooms, and
that's
then
nice.
he would come back and he would eat a little bit, and then he would do it again. And what
Right,
sucks is when he does it at 3 o'clock in the morning. But I'm like, he knows I need to walk. I need to get moving. I need to do stuff. And like I feel Sesame was really there for me when I needed that extra I'm tired, let's move,
right.
type of thing. And
Well, that was your medicine.
yeah.
That's Trouble passed away last year,
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
and that broke my heart, especially
Yeah.
since my wife had done painting classes, and one of her first sessions, Trouble was her subject. So I see
Oh
Trouble every day,
yeah.
more than just the artwork. I see like her realistic painting and color right
Yeah.
on the wall as I walk by every day. But he was a great cat. He was a big mush,
Mhm.
uh, part Maine Coon, so he was really big and really
Oh
heavy.
wow. Yeah.
And my teddy bear,
Mm.
and him and Trouble. I mean, him and Mac were close friends. Then they weren't for a while. Then they didn't look at each other for a while. Then they were close friends again. Um, he just and he had a very strong life. Like um, he broke his leg and he had a cast on his leg, and he was great with the vet. He got an IV. He was one of those cats that just he went through every one of his 9 lives
Hmm.
like it was a novel. It was just
Yeah,
it was just full of it.
yeah,
Um, Mac is having a couple of problems now, but because he had CH for so long, which is for people who don't know, that's an ailment that they're born with, where they don't translate what goes on in their head to their legs. So, in other words, he doesn't walk very well, and he falls a little bit. So recently, he's been having problems, and we don't get enough time with our best friends. I'll
yeah.
tell
I
you that
know.
much.
I know.
So, but Mac inspired me to do so many different things. I've had many pets in my life, but I've never been as close as I am to Mac
Yeah,
with any of the others. God
yeah,
bless them all,
yeah.
but you know, Mac was inspiration for many things. And as a matter of fact, he uh, accidentally inspired me for this new project that I'm doing next year.
Mm.
So, which is odd, and I won't even go into that because it's too odd. People will think I'm a nutcase.
Well, I,
Uh,
I, I will say this: if Mac and Trouble need to be illustrated again, I have my stylus right here. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I love Mac and Trouble. I've never met the cats, but I've the real ones. But I've
well, I'll hit you up because
yeah.
next year we're doing a large volume. There's going to be all of the Mac and Trouble books, pinups, artwork that's never been seen before, artwork by fantasy artist Jay Moores and comic artist Dan Gorman
Mhm.
that's never been published. I have a number of pieces that I had done that's never been published, and then we're going to be putting in a couple of new stories
Cool.
along with that, like we had done with the Symbol book that we
Yes,
had done 2 years ago.
the symbol. Another great character of yours. He's basically your Captain America. Um,
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that
I
I
mean,
wanted to do a patriotic
so that's
character.
what I'm saying. He's
Yeah,
patriotic. I mean, that's who everyone goes to. It's like I can't say the Shield to most people; they won't know who he is,
right,
or
right.
But
The symbol has an interesting backstory that I won't go into it in huge detail because like I'm a long talker, but um, I was hired by one of the editors at Marvel to produce a couple of characters for their new Golden Age lineup. They wanted to bring back characters like Namorita and Venus and the Yellow Claw, and they wanted to put them into a couple of projects.
mhm,
It would also bring in the All Winners Squad and the Avenger. I mean, excuse me, the Invaders,
mhm,
and they had some Phantom Eagle. So they wanted to put this in. So I created this character that was very much like a Captain America crossed with a Wonder Woman character, but it had a sci-fi beginning to it. See, everybody thinks it's just pulp character, two-fisted character, Captain America ripoff. I heard recently, which I love because the bad comments make me laugh and the good comments make me blush.
mhm,
And but he comes from another world, another an alternate reality, where the U.S. is losing. The Allied powers are losing World War II, and he
mhm.
crosses over to our Earth technically, and he can't get back. So on his Earth, he's a giant superhero, well known, but here he's a nut in a costume, and that's where that whole thing comes from, and it's very unstable. So he can't stay long. So he winds up going from reality to reality to reality. His name changes. Sometimes his costume changes a slight bit. His mission changes, but he's always the same character.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had created this character, another character called the Toy, and another one called Tower. Tower was like a giant man,
Okay.
and the Toy was kind of an interesting character. 6 inches tall, and he uses literal toys to do the things that he needs to do. So he'll use buttons and bottle caps and pencils and rubber balls and Hot Wheel racers to do the things that he needs to do. Um, it all fits into the lore of World War II. There's Bundists and there's secret agents and there's double agents, and that how's that went. So they were only interested in the symbol. So
Hmm.
it sat on the shelves for a very long time. An editor came and left. Another editor was a lady. She was pregnant. She left. She never came back. Shooter came in, wasn't interested in the project at all, scrapped it. That was it. It sat on the shelves for like 5 years. Got a note, finally turned around and said, listen, I'm going to take the character back. Oh, thank you very much. Available at a newsstand near you. But I took the character back. I said, to hell with this. I don't care if they're Marvel. If they're never going to use it, what's the point? So right after that, I had brought in a good friend of mine at the time, underground artist John Orlando, and I asked him to paint the cover, and that's where the Test Drive comic came in. That Gray Morrow and Gil Kane, Rob Liefeld, let me see, Rich Buckler, Herb Dunn, and a number of others had done work on, and I had just published it as a story in there, and then after a while, it's been published in like 30 different comics as short stories, backups. It kind of reminds me of Yasagi Yahimbo or Flaming Carrot,
Hmm.
the underground type pieces. And then a couple of years ago, I said, you know what, I'm going to collect all these stories and just put them into one campaign. And I ran a campaign, and it went like 700% over, which I thought was nice. And it was a giant size issue that reprinted a lot of these stories. I had a brand new story crafted, and reconstituted the character. But I put all the lore in, where each story came from, who worked on it, right down to the janitor, on and on and on. Work that's never been seen before, an ad that was never seen before, because he was a mascot for somebody. And I always plan to do something with the character, and further. And I never had the time, but now I'm making the time. So there'll be a symbol and a Mac in Trouble appearance in this Golden Age project coming up, but they're also going to get their own stuff next year,
Awesome.
because I really like the symbol because it's clean. It is a pulp like character.
Yeah.
That's, he has Peter Parker, tendencies, woe is me, on and on and on. And he's a sad sack, in real life.
Yeah.
And I named him after my two oldest sons as well. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I always thought to myself, I got personal having the cats in a comic. I got to get personal with this named after my sons.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's
so next year,
next
next year.
year. Oh, like I said, my stylist is here. Before we move on, there's a comment I've been wanting to get to. I just was waiting for the right time. But Annabelle asks, "What was your wrestling name?"
Oh, that's kind of well, you again, long talker. I'll make it really short. When I first started wrestling, I was known as the Brooklyn Warrior. But there were so many because I came from Brooklyn, New York. There were so many warriors: Ultimate Warrior, Dingo Warrior. He was before that. There was the uh, Bolshevik Warrior. There was a couple of warriors. I think there was one called the Warriors, a tag team in WCCW. So I changed it to Wild Card, which I liked, and I had wrestled in Vegas. I think I could share a picture on this, can I?
Yeah, if you have it, let me just stop sharing my the background piece I have. Okay, if you should be able to see something that says, I think it says "present" for you or share,
Okay. Okay. Hold.
and
Oh, that's right. I have to.
yeah,
I have to put it up on a screen. Give me a.
yeah.
Give me a 1 second here. Keep
Yeah.
talking. Give me one
No, it's
second.
okay. We got Annabelle says the Road Warriors,
Right?
and
Yeah.
now he says cool name Wildcard. I gotta say, I'm seeing like a superhero as soon as you said Wildcard. I'm
Let me
like, the how cool is that? Um,
see. Share screen. Window.
yep. But,
Share.
and then it comes up here, and now here it comes, you guys.
That was me when I was in the USWA. I took that picture was taken in the back locker room, and I think uh, maybe the same night or maybe the next night, I won the championship and I held on to it for a year.
Wow.
Yep. Don't remember what year it was. Was
Uh,
it? Let me. I'm gonna blow it up.
that's fine.
89. This says, but I wasn't wrestling then. I think it was 85.
Hmm.
But funny story about wrestling. I was in a battle royal in Las Vegas, which was one of my stomping grounds,
Hmm.
and I brought that chain into the ring. Believe it or not, that was just a chain from my backyard where I lived in California. And they said, you got to break something up because you've got no chest, you've got no abdominal muscles, because I was a big bush. So I went ahead and threw the chain on, and it distracted everybody. And I was in a battle royal at the Showboat Hotel in Vegas, and Andre the Giant came in, and he has a habit of talking. Well, at the time, he had a habit of
Yeah.
talking during matches. So he leans in, and he's got like his boot on my chest, and he's pressing and he's pressing. So he picks me up, throws me in the corner, and he says, in his voice, he's like, "I need the chain," and I said, "What?" And he goes, "I need the chain." Oh, just take it. He goes, "I have a bit." Okay, you didn't argue. We called him the boss. You didn't
Yeah.
argue with the boss. So he grabs me and by the neck, and he picks me up. I should dump this so that I can.
Oh.
There we go. He picks me up and puts me over the rope and then pats me on the head and then pushes me off so I land on my butt on the floor. And obviously the chain's in the ring. And everybody laughed. And I'm screaming and yelling and pointing at him as they're dragging me out through the curtain because it was, it was a battle royal.
Yeah.
And he took the chain and he put it around. I don't know. I think it was one of the Samoans put it around one of their necks and was swinging and whatever. And those gloves that were in the picture, I was at. We actually had a pay per view. I don't remember the name of the pay per view, but we were in Utah at a
Mhm.
college, and they set up a steel cage in the middle of the football field, and it was surrounded by the bleachers and then all the chairs laid out. The audience around the ring. So we were in the ring for 50 minutes. It was me and Patrick Nealon, who used to be the snake charmer. He passed away. God bless him. He was a good friend. Backstage, of course, we hated
Yeah.
each other on camera. And his gimmick was he wore an all black suit that covered his whole entire body. And he had these little studs like diamonds. They weren't glittery, and it would start at his foot and work all the way up around his body, and it would come to his hand and look like a snake tongue, and it would go on this. And he had this thing where he would hit you like you were getting hit by a
Mhm.
snake, and he would hit you in like the back and paralyze your arm, hit you in the neck, and you'd be like ah, or poke your eyes. So we wrestled in the steel cage in the sun for like I think it was like 55 minutes, 53 minutes. We were so sunburned and I was bleeding so bad that I actually got a sunburn around the blood. So when they washed everything off of me after the match, I had
Wow.
like these sunburn drips all down my arm. I was bleeding from my eye. I was bleeding from my ear, all down my chest. They had to actually cut the gloves off of me because you know what happens to leather when it gets wet.
Yeah.
So it's wet, it's dry, it's bloody, it's sticking to my hand. It was, yeah. So uh, the way you won a steel cage match back then was twofold. If you were in the Mid South, you had a referee in the ring with you, and you would pin somebody in the ring. It was meant to steel cage was meant to keep you in.
Yeah.
WWF at the time introduced a way to make it more fascinating, more grandiose. You had to leave the cage. So at one point, Patrick just, we had worked out a great routine that we used over and over. And Patrick just said at this one point, he goes, he's whispering to me and he's like, dude, my back is so bad I can't move anymore. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And he says, pop me and go go out the door. So here I am. I bounce off the ropes. I pop him one really hard. He's laid out and the referee is just standing there looking, and everybody is screaming, "Get out! Get out! Get out!" So I go through the door outside the ring because they're like 5 feet, 4.5, 5 feet tall off the ground. We
Mhm.
have these wooden stairs. They're just like any wooden stairs, like any little step up thing you'd buy at Walmart. So I put my foot
Oh, dude, you're
on the
freezing
top
right now.
of the and the stair went one way, I went the other, and
Oh,
I fell flat on my face right on the ground. The referee, like they always do, they grab your arm and they lift it and they say, you're the winner. Except that when he lifted my arm, he tore the rotator cuff in my arm in my shoulder. And I had the distinction in Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine of being the first wrestler who was put out of the game by the referee. So after that, I went to Vegas. I wrestled a couple of times. Patrick and I, we wrestled together as a tag team. He hurt his back. I hurt my shoulder. We were both looking at each other like we're not big enough to anybody would care. And at the same token, we had our ride. This was our e-ticket ride, and we were done.
yeah.
And he went into music, and I basically bummed around until my shoulder healed, and I went back. Thank God it was my left one,
Yeah.
because if it was my right one and it was in the same condition, I was doing artwork the whole time I was wrestling.
Yeah.
I did artwork for magazines. I did artwork for Heavy Metal magazine. I drew a whole bunch of knives that went into a Conan thing
Mhm.
that they had done, and their subscriber cards had my art on it for a while.
Cool.
And I did underground stuff. So, but that was about that. I enjoyed it. I hated getting stitched up, and the travel was terrible. I slept on gym floors on top of, or sometimes in the shower on top of towels rolled up, or slept in the back seat of a car. And food was terrible. But being in front of the crowd just electrifies you.
Yeah.
Even if they hate you, it's a feeling that you can't get.
You know, I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of performing, like especially live. I was always shy. Actually, going into education changed that. Being in front of a class regularly kind of broke my shyness. But the only time I was ever really able to perform was when I was doing puppetry because I was behind something and I was another character, whether I was doing marionette
Sure.
work or I had my hand with a puppet on there, or whatever. And it is, doing comics and just art in general is so solitary. You're in your studio alone. Even if you work with a partner, they're not usually with you, and getting out in front of that crowd, even behind someone, it was a whole different energy and a different feeling I got. I'm still not that great of a performer live, but if I'm behind the scenes, I'm more of a behind the scenes guy. But if I'm not being shown,
Yeah.
then I can perform. Um,
I gotta say,
yeah,
just real quick, to cap a lot of this off, I
Mhm.
still get butterflies every time I do something, honestly. There's no, I don't know if it's trepidation because I'm about to go out and nervousness, or if it's the
Mhm.
fact that I like it so much that it's like a buildup. But
Yeah.
whatever it is, every once in a while I'll be drawing, and I'll have the TV on because I leave the news on all day long, one of the news channels, and I
Mhm.
watch wrestling, or I mean, excuse me, westerns later on in the day.
Yeah.
Um, because the news repeats itself, it gets boring. So there are times when I'll literally just start thinking about being in front of that big crowd. And I got to say, it might sound flighty, it might sound like a story set up, but every once in a while, I hear this sound, or I hear a bell ring, or something on the news. And in the back of my head, I just go for the crowd cheering. I can hear it.
Yeah.
And it's addictive. It's like your 10th tattoo. It's like your 50th Coke in a row. Whatever it is, I got so addicted to being in front of people. Someday I'll tell you a story about how I wrestled 3 times in one day as 3 different people. Um, just because I was so addicted to be in front of people,
Yeah.
but it takes you back.
Yeah.
I watched a movie recently where people were cheering at a boxing match. I actually had to pause it because I couldn't even draw anymore. I was like, God, I missed that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, isn't that the way for like a lot of people who act, who have been actors and stuff? I have a few friends that are actors,
mhm.
and I will say this, during the pandemic was like the worst thing for them because they couldn't get out, they couldn't perform, and like,
Yeah.
is that the way, like, is that a good way of looking at it for you? It's
Okay,
still perform.
it is a good way to look at it, but I can't relate to what your friends were saying because
Mm.
believe it or not, during the pandemic, I did more acting and more artwork than I have ever done in my whole life.
Wow.
Because I did I in the very first year of the pandemic, I think I appeared in like 4 or 5 films and a couple of cartoons doing voices.
Mhm.
And for I am literally at the end of 2 years of solid work, like
Wow.
a card set, a comic, a logo, this, that, and the other thing, to the point where I literally have like 3 calendar pages hung up with all the deadlines and everything. Um, People don't understand what a dry period really means in
Mhm.
artwork.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into a teaching phase. This is what I used
Mm.
to do. I used to do a panel called Free to Fee at shows, and I had a lot of artists there, and I used to show artists how to make money off of free jobs and how to make free jobs worthwhile, not just publicity but other things. And I won't go into it, but we would do it. And I don't see a lot of artists don't understand what a dry period means. It's actually a period where you create success.
Mhm.
Being successful, it means that you're doing something and you're hitting your height, and
Yeah.
you're, on and on and on, going to the top of the ladder, climbing the next one, whatever. Dry periods mean you stay in the same spot, and by staying in the same spot, it gives you the opportunity of being creative so you can take the next step on your journey.
Yeah.
And like an old editor told me, in times of no work, make your own.
Yeah.
So I have to say, during the pandemic, uh, whether it's over or not, because you know how people are now, nobody knows what to think. But I'd say during the past 3 years, I have done more work in the past 3 years than I've done my whole career.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah,
I mean,
I enjoyed it
I
every
will say,
bit.
listen, I know people in the animation industry that didn't end. Cartoons and animation still came out. It was that because they didn't need to officially be in the studio. Everyone had their Cintiqs home. They had the software. They can animate.
Right.
Production still went on. Um, you know, the thing with comics, there was a hold on comics because that was print and no one was going to stores. How are you going to get your stuff? And
Right.
that was something. And like I said, with the actors, they couldn't perform, so that was another thing. I've always been the type of person. I'm very similar to you in this way, where I'm okay working on my own
Right.
projects and finding stuff. If I did not have my health issues, I had 3 projects planned. I'm like, we're going to be inside for a while, and one of them I just finished last year. However, due to Ingram Sparks, if you know that website, it hasn't come out yet because they're giving me issues. But it's a children's book I wrote and illustrated,
Hmm.
and I'm excited to bring it out. But yeah, that was supposed to be back then, you know.
The trading card set that I had completed last year and the year before, I had done 3 sets right in a row. The first one was the Oz, the early years. What I did was about Wizard of Oz, but it was before the Judy Garland movie. So it was all L. Frank Baum's books. Nobody really understood that there were 5 movies and 1 Broadway play of the Wizard of Oz and
Yeah.
50 Russian books before the Judy Garland movie, and a lot of material. Then I did Sexy Scary Space, which was a pulp magazine set, and I had a lot of very popular characters in that, like Zorro and Conan, John Carter, Warlord of Mars. And
Love
then
all
I
that.
did a dinosaur set. The dinosaur set was literally 3 years in the making.
Yeah, I remember you showing me some dinosaur stuff.
Yeah, the dinosaur set was neat because every set had a card that had a fossil, an actual fossil on the card. So if you were buying the set, you would actually get original artwork from a sketch card, the 9 card set, which turned into an 18 card set, and then the fossil. And then random sets had all kinds of random things like dinosaur stamps and a wooden card and on and on and on. Um, During that time I was working for other companies. So I
Yeah.
would like chisel out something to do, set it aside, do their stuff. Dry period, pull my thing back in, do more, do more.
Yeah.
Um, but I will emulate the fact that you said, if it wasn't for health, I would be doing a set every month. I'd be
Yeah.
working on a comic every other month. But it's too hard for me. Just sitting at the desk, it makes it a little hard for me to do as many. Yesterday, I did 6 baseball cards for Tops. I'm working on the new set, and I have to do 50. Some artists, like one of my good friends, Rich Molinelli, he can do a ton of cards in one day. Pencil, ink, color. He's a master artist. For
Mhm.
me, I'm usually a 3 card a day guy because I got problems sitting, and then I have other work to do too.
Yeah.
Um, but I got 6 done, and I was so proud of myself. I'm like, oh my god, I'm on a roll. This is so awesome. And then the next day, I did none because I had other stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
So
It
what can you
happens.
do?
It happens. We're gonna wrap up in a moment, but before we go, there is something I want to talk. I want to ask you about. And since you're,
If it's that money I owe you, I'm sorry, I don't have it yet.
um, no, this is actually something I've always found fascinating about you, and it's probably not happening now because you're not really doing shows, but you're ordained and have married people at Comic Cons.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I actually attended one of them. I think it might have been at RetroCon,
The Doctor
where
Who wedding.
the Doctor Who wedding, and I think you did another one that I don't think I attended, but I saw it from far away at Terrificon. Did you do one at Terrificon?
No,
No.
yeah, it's another one of those shows where I don't like the promoter, so I stayed away. But no, I haven't done one at that. I've done um, weddings. I've done literally over 100. I've done a bunch of weddings at Rhode Island Comic Con,
Hmm.
Greater Allentown Show, RetroCon. I did a couple at
Hmm.
Sci-Fi Valley Con. I did a couple at so many, but I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, I got my permit or whatever they call it. I got ordained online for $5, and now I can do a wedding and everything." And
That's how I did it, guys. By the way. Sorry.
but I actually went through divinity school
Hmm.
online because I was, I told you I was for a while. I was in bed
Hmm.
with the St. Francis Monastery in Pennsylvania here, and I had been officially ordained. when you do, not to knock anything because I'm not like that. When you do like an online ordination,
Mm,
uh, you're restricted from certain things.
mhm,
You can't do funerals, you can't do baptisms, or blessings. Um, you can do weddings, but then you run into counties where you're only allowed to be an ex-judge or a member of the clergy or a captain of a ship. And if you're not one of those, then you're not allowed to do it, or you have to do special, like a special request. There have been times where people are like, I want my brother to marry me, but he's not a minister, so the minister has to be present, blah, blah, blah. But I have done, baptisms and funerals and corporate blessings, things along those lines.
mm,
And obviously the weddings and vows ceremonies and friendship ceremonies, on and
mm,
on and on. But I really enjoyed it. It was actually very funny. I did one wedding.
mhm.
I've done a lot of them, but I've done one comedy wedding that always sticks out in my head because I used to write the vows for
Yeah.
every single wedding different.
Mhm.
I never gave anybody the same one twice. So I did one for crap. I can't remember the name of the show. Mike Krieger is the promoter, but I can't remember the name of the show right
I
now.
don't know.
But anyway, I did it was a Dukes of Hazard wedding, and I performed comedy with it. So for literally normal ceremony is about 10 minutes long, maybe 8 minutes long, and that's it. But I did a Dukes of Hazard wedding and I did a Marvel wedding, and the next day, and I did like a half hour of comedy, like a stand-up comedian you know, during the ceremony. I'd be like, oh, it's good to see that you wore it's good to see that you wore your formal good luck T-shirt with the hole in it, on blah blah blah, that kind of thing. The Marvel wedding was the best because I had it was a Mazicon, that was the name of it.
Okay.
So I had at the Marvel wedding, uh, it was all Marvel stuff. They were all cosplaying dressed like Marvel, and I pointed up at the ceiling of the hotel convention center where the show was, and we had every guest around us. Not only the guests, but people came from their tables. There were people in the aisles that came over. The whole place emptied. Like if it would almost tilt. I mean, there was so many people in the corner where we were. And I said, "Oh, and look, there's a flyby, courtesy of Nick Fury, Shield helicarrier and airplanes." And everybody looked up, and I thought it was the funniest thing because I got to stump like a prank, like
Yeah.
50 or 60 people to look up to the ceiling for this non-existent airplane. So, but I enjoyed it. It's a big deal. Um, I wish I could still do it. It's just very hard because of
Yeah.
my back standing for so long.
Yeah.
I still have the ability of doing it, and I have
Mhm.
done it on random occasions afterwards. But I enjoyed it. It was a way to continue to entertain, you
Mhm.
know, and comedy weddings, drunk minister weddings, that kind of thing. Everything from Star Wars to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I was one of the first ministers in the state of Rhode Island to do a same sex wedding after they passed the bill.
Oh, cool.
So that weekend they passed it, and I had done three right in a row.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, one was a bat. No, Supergirl and Wonder Woman. One was two guys that were dressed up like Doctor Who. Then they had a giant trash compactor where I married a man and a woman in the Star Wars trash compactor, and they were dressed up, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And then I think the other one was two guys. It was on the top floor. They were pirates. No, Farmville. If you remember that game
Yes.
from
Yes.
Facebook, they're dressed up as farmers and they had Farmville stuff on them. So
Wow.
I enjoyed it. Again, an extension of being an entertainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
No, but I had to bring it because that was one of the coolest things I saw. like
I
from you.
enjoyed
I mean, we've hung out at shows, we sat next to each other, table next to each other, but to see you actually up there performing and seeing the couple, and it was just. I still remember them walking by. You did it by a TARDIS prop. I mean, it
right.
was really
Oh, by the
really
way, the show that you were talking about before that we met at was one of JP's shows,
yeah.
and we were sitting next to Don Smith, the writer.
Yes, Don was just on a couple of weeks ago. A very good friend of mine.
Yep, me
Um,
too. He actually wrote the story for the symbol that was in the book we did recently.
oh, really? Because here I'll show you. I mean, I don't. I'm sure you saw my post, but
Oh,
Old
it's
Venture
beautiful.
Press. I didn't do the cover, but the artist who did the cover will be on one day here. But what I wanted to go to was Don wrote one of the stories in this book that I
Oh,
illustrated. So I got to illustrate two stories in this book here, and Zorro is probably one of my favorite characters of all time. Definitely in my top
sure.
five.
The Desert Fox.
Yep. And right here, Don wrote a story. It's called "A Wolf in the Land."
Uh huh.
This is my cover to the
Oh,
story. The cover art,
wonderful,
where Diego's
wonderful.
watching kids playing Zorro and stuff there. And but there's more art. I do about five drawings, and we just did another piece that he wrote and I illustrated um, for a public domain character, which again we didn't chat about, but we will talk public domain the next time I have you on here. I just don't want to keep you too late, and I do have some stuff to do in the morning, so
Yeah,
early morning.
I turn into a pumpkin at midnight.
Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of actually because I will say this. I mentioned I work remote. I'm here in New York. My
Mhm.
job is in California, and my body at different times of the day are
Right.
on different time zones.
Right.
Like
I have that too. One of my
oh
producers is in California and my other one is in the UK.
yeah,
So
that's even worse.
I'll send him a good morning like I do a couple of people when I wake up, and he'll be like already eating lunch in the afternoon, and
Yeah,
the other one will still be asleep until, noon, maybe 1 o'clock. And yeah, I have to set up a cutoff time because I've had it. Like I can't do the time thing anymore, you know.
it's
But I
funny because
get it.
the last few nights I've been going to bed like 2 a.m. and having to get up at like 7 for something I
Yeah,
need to do because I have to be in East Coast time and stuff. But then like with food, I don't get hungry for breakfast until like 10 a.m.
right.
And it's like okay, I'm up for 3 4 hours without my morning coffee or so.
Sure.
It's just weird. So yeah, I got to
It's
do
funny
some
that
stuff.
you brought up the book thing. I just got done doing the cover. It's a wraparound cover for a book by Jess Epley, who's an author. It's called Pendulum, and it's on Amazon now. And she sent me 5 books, and I did a sketch in the front of each book so that they had, numbered 1 to 5, so that they have, author books on the table. Um, and I'm working on a book about Vikings, kind of like an Indiana Jones book about
Oh,
Vikings.
love
So I'm
Vikings.
doing, random drawings for that. Weapons,
Yeah,
tools,
nice.
birds, doing a cave later, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm just adding to the new thing. I'm going to
Yeah,
be doing pictures for another book coming up soon as well. So I'm adding to the new thing. I remember doing pictures of Zaza the Mystic, which
mhm,
is a Golden Age public domain
yeah.
character, for Dave Noe's book a couple of years ago, and that's what got me on the kick of doing, book art. Whenever it comes up, I'm like, yes, I'll do it.
I love listen. I love comics. Here's the thing. I know I just said we're gonna end, but I'll tell you this quickly. Um, a while back, I kind of felt because of the way the comic industry is, I kind of fell out of love with the creation of comics.
Yeah,
Um, but I love comics. I mean, I still read them. I
well,
still have all
sure,
this stuff, and I was focusing on animation, and I still am. I'm still doing animation, but there are certain stories I have, certain things that I've done or haven't finished that I want in comic form.
right.
And the more I've been working on it, this love of I forgot what the love of comic was. All this BS that goes on in the news and how people talk about what's ruining comics and blah blah whatever it is.
I never
It
listened
it,
to that.
it was just one of those things where it was like I just got so sick of it that I was like, I'm done with comics in my head. Now that I'm starting to create again, and I will say I didn't realize some of it was health issues. As I got better, I find myself having the energy and stuff again.
Right.
But um,
I
but
stopped buying new
yeah.
comics back in 2000
Mm,
because I can't stand the way Marvel and DC have I can't think of a nice word for it. How I mean they've screwed up the way they do their comics. It's a costume shop now. Whoever
mm,
fits the costume,
mm,
whatever looks good on, I didn't like the covers. The covers were pinups. I didn't like the stories.
mm.
Um, there's too much realism. Comics are
Yeah,
escapism.
that's how I feel. Yeah.
I can't stand and now to me they're too woke now. They make me
Mm.
sick to my stomach. I look at it and I'm like, okay, I don't if I wanted this, I'd watch CNN and whatever. I don't like this.
Yeah, it's
If
it's bad. It's bad.
yeah,
But I don't read a lot of I hardly touch mainstream anymore. I did pick up because I'm a big fan of Mike Allred's work,
uh-huh.
and I picked up. He did a Superman, like Silver Age style story, and I picked up.
Like the way Madman is done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do I have it behind me here? I might have it right here so I can show you. I'm sorry. I have a pile of books. I just last time I was there, I picked up Doctor Solar,
Oh, it's
which
beautiful.
I love, and these are reprints mostly from the like I think late '60s and '80s
Right.
books. Hold on, that's my iPad. Right? I just got a lot of stuff here. I just got to get down to the comics section here. So what is going on? Oh, so this right here is issue 1. I missed issue 2. I don't think issue 3 came out yet, but
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love all red stuff here. It's a really interesting story here, and you can
Uh-huh.
where is it? Like right there, you can see Pariah there.
Right.
Um, but what's interesting is it's about him becoming Superman, but it's like what if he was in the 60s and found out the world was ending, and it's like the introduction of superheroes to this world. So like there's even a um not to give anything really away, but there's
Right.
this really cool piece with Bruce Wayne going up against Lex Luthor for a military contract, and what Bruce did was create a battle suit. And since he did not win the contract, what do you think he does with the battle suit? I mean,
Right.
it's there's some very interesting stuff, and I got to find issue 2 again. I don't know if issue 3 came out yet, but I got to look into that.
Well,
But
you
it's
could
a 3 issue.
you could find all that stuff.
Yeah,
You know how that goes.
yeah.
I was just looking it up now because I couldn't remember it. It kind of reminds me of the Justice League New Frontier film,
Yes, yeah.
which I adore.
I
One of the few that I actually bought to keep. But that's what that reminds me
Yeah,
of.
all I that was Darwin Cook. I have that book over there, the collection of the comic version. To me, Darwin Cook is again one of my like all right is I love. Darwin has that Alex Toth like
Hmm.
influence. I know he worked for Bruce Timm for a while, I believe.
Right,
So he's
right,
got it's almost like Alex Toth meets Bruce Timm, which is and Bruce Timm looked at Toth's work, so he has this great less is more thing. Like I always felt bad. I never got to meet him, and he passed away. But his theory on comics being for kids or for if you want I don't know if it was specifically for kids, but definitely like young at heart. Like there should be it shouldn't be all this dark stuff that we're seeing, that there should be some light to these comics.
Oh, I agree.
And
I
I've
agree.
always agreed, and that put me more and more on the path of learning more and more about Darwin and seeing his work and stuff. But he was fantastic.
Well, I'll tell you what. Not to keep you
Yeah.
because but I love the storytelling ability that Cook brought to his works. Tim
Mhm.
also, but Batman the Animated Series and the JLA series, actually the animated series, actually brought me back in. I've
Yeah.
gotten to the point now where I'm not interested. It's going to sound awful. I'm not as interested in comics anymore. I'm more interested in the MCU. I like that version of the storytelling better. Not that it evolved to a certain point, but the how am I going to wind this up? The presentation of it was like when I had seen Wally Wood's work. It was
Mhm.
so fluid the way that they were doing the storytelling that it just erased everything that came before it.
Yeah.
I have a big collection of JSA, Justice Society,
Yeah.
all
Same
the
here.
different iterations, all the way down to the 90s, all the different series, the All Star books and Showcase, all those.
Yeah.
And Wally Wood stuff just impressed me so much that it actually changed the way I was doing things. Um, I do a lot of comic work differently than I do the sketch card work. I try to adapt each product to to what it is. But like for example, I'm working on the set Cherry, which is from Fivefinity,
Mhm.
which is it was the adult underground comic. So
Yeah. I have a couple issues of it
yeah,
because.
I do things like Larry Wells drew. And
Mhm.
then when I do the baseball card work, I do things that look more like like what they used to do, like sports reporting back in the 30s and 40s. I try
Mhm.
to, do my renditions of the characters along those lines. There's a little bit of realism to it, but at the same token, I try to give it a little bit of a like a comic aspect. Let me see.
Uh,
Hold on.
so,
I can
yeah.
fix this. Hold on. I try to give it a little bit of
Oh,
a
nice. I saw it.
yeah.
Yeah. Hold it right there.
Try to
Yeah.
give it a little bit of a comic aspect to it. Trying to find a better player. This is that was Alex Bregman. This is Ty Cobb. Let me see.
Oh, very good. I
Yeah,
like
I
that.
try to do things like that, and then obviously, um, my big heroes. This is Babe Ruth and Ted Williams. These are
Mhm.
actually in the shape of the Topps logo. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are
So
great.
I try to put them up on eBay every once in a while because I don't really keep anything that I do.
Mhm.
Um, Rather it be in someone's hands and have fun with it, on and on and on. But by extension, I've been doing the same thing for the Star Wars cards, the Walking Dead cards. I'm about to work on a TV and movie set
Nice.
next month. So and I enjoy cards because they're like comic book pinups,
Yeah.
which is what I like. But I changed my style after seeing Wally's work.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed that. And then when I saw the Batman the Animated Series, that gave me a little bit of, rounded chins and a little bit more chiseled uniforms and things like that, because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Um, Batman the Animated Series was a pulp magazine come to life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I mean, we could talk about this for a while. I mean, you can look at the Fleischer cartoons that inspire, and it's
oh,
funny
gorgeous.
when I saw Batman, the animated series. I remember it came out, I believe, in '92. I was
Uh huh.
16, and I was blown away so much. Just like when you saw Wally Wood stuff, my style changed very
Yeah,
quickly. I mean, listen, you know me, I'm inspired by Hanna Barbera. I love that. I love
right,
Toth's work. At the time, I didn't realize that Toth's work was influenced in there,
right.
but it was, you know, it was something that really. like
Well,
this.
the whole
Yeah,
Gray Ghost episode was Toth. I
yeah,
mean, that was, it was that whole, it was that whole space ghost and Birdman type attitude that went into that, to that thing,
hmm
that whole episode, and we should change the name of your show to "But I Digress."
yeah. Oh man. Hold on. Let's see. It goes. I'm just looking at comments. So, Dylan, I'm sorry you showed up late. Yes, that is Rusty. Rusty does make comic stuff. You'll have to go back and watch the video to get more about what we were talking about because we are going to wrap up. And Joe Ryan says, I love working on cards. I've done a couple of sketch cards. Unfortunately, the companies I worked for, mine were never picked for the
Uh,
sets. And and the last time I worked, I will say this, it was, I got pneumonia. I think I was
uh,
sick and I was not even finished. I had all these like pencils done and just a couple of inked cards, and I don't remember if it was when I got pneumonia or when I got COVID. I don't remember, but
yeah.
I had to say I can't finish the cards, and I never
Uh,
worked on another card set again. And
it's an extension.
yeah,
Comics and trading cards go hand in hand,
yeah,
and in all honesty, it's an extension. I enjoy cards. I like the idea of, oh, I did a base card for a company. Oh, that's great. Or
yeah,
I recently did a monster set where Jay Moores and I did the background on the card. We did the
yeah,
back of the card that was printed.
yeah,
I've done wrappers and packaging and things like that. I love doing sketch cards because that's actually somebody getting my actual art
yeah,
versus getting, a print. And some companies will let you get away with doing just pencils or pencil and ink, and then they'll bring in someone else to do colors. I actually did a job recently where somebody did only color work, main work, but they did no backgrounds. So I
yeah.
did all the backgrounds for like 50 cards,
Wow.
and I enjoyed that. A couple of
Yeah,
trees here, a couple of lines there,
yeah.
psychedelic stuff, whatever. Um, it's a shame you didn't get to do it, but you should, with your kind of work, you
Mhm.
should continue, doing them.
Yeah.
Sketch cards are a great thing. You can
Oh
even
no,
do
no, I
your
do
own
them
set.
some. Yeah, no, no. I have some plans of stuff. I've had all these ideas going on for a very long time, and a lot of the reason it didn't get done was health reasons. And I didn't know I was sick for a long time without knowing I was sick. It was one of
Yeah,
those things, and when I found out, oh, this is the reason I haven't been doing stuff because of how I've been feeling without realizing that.
right.
And now that I'm feeling good, I have all this energy to create. I mean, so even though I go to bed sometimes at 2 a.m., I there are nights where I'm it's because I'm in my studio until
Right.
2 a.m. working now. And other times it's just like I can't sleep or whatever, but it's,
I've
but
gotten
like,
that. I've
yeah,
gotten that way too.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there are times I'll go to bed at 10. I'm like, I'm going to sleep early. It's 10 o'clock. And now I can't fall asleep. And I tried for an hour. I said, screw it. I'm going to the studio. Next thing I know, it's 2, 3 in the morning. You
Right.
know? And so,
Last night I was writing until 2, 3.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
totally get it.
yeah. Anyway, I wanna wrap up because you and I could talk for a while. I know that. And we are going to continue this conversation
Cool.
on, on another show, privately, whatever. We're going to talk more.
Well,
Uh,
you have been formally invited to go to perform on our radio show that we're doing, and
awesome.
that is going to be on Amazon Prime after we're done. And with this new set, I would love to do something with you. So
Yeah,
we'll have to talk some more.
definitely.
So I'm glad to see you're doing
Thank you.
well.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad you're up and around, or at least around.
For a while,
Yeah.
until the bandages fall off.
Well, I hope being up this long in your chair wasn't too painful for you. And, I do. I felt,
I'll say that it was. I'll say no, it was great, and then I'll turn off the video feed, and I'll be like, ah.
Uh,
That's how I am normally. But no,
yeah,
I had a break. I had dinner before I came on, so
nice.
this is like second wind territory.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm happy for that then, because I know, you know. Let's see. I got a thing here.
They have a cream
Uh,
for that.
yeah. uh, Great seeing you guys tonight on the show tonight. Thanks, Joe, for tuning in. I'm sure I'll see you soon or talk soon. Dylan says, oh, he's talking about the cartoons. He says he's making cartoons later. Uh, was it next year? So yeah, Dylan is an animator. He's still got to post links. I always tell him to post links so I can see his work. He never posts the links
Yeah,
because
I'd like to see. I always love to see people's
yeah.
work.
So
Always love to see.
yeah, next time, as soon as you can, Dylan, just post them in the comments. Even if the
Cool.
show's over, just go back and post them in the comments, and I will check them out. I do see
Yeah.
all the comments. But with that, Rusty, I'm going to drop you backstage for a minute and do my closing, and I will talk to you in a moment. All
Okay.
right. Thanks for coming on, though. I
No,
had a
my pleasure. My
had a
pleasure.
blast.
Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. So that was Rusty Gilligan. For those who didn't know him, I mean, Rusty, awesome dude. Love chatting with him. Um, like I said, it's been a while since me and him like really sat down and talked. So I was super excited. I've been wanting to get him on the show for a while, but you know the I book pretty quick, so sometimes it's hard to even just ask a friend. But I'm glad he came on. Check out his stuff. Just look up Rusty Gilligan, Mac in Trouble. You'll find his social media, um, and just follow him and support him. He does great work, guys. Anyway, I will see you next week with another guest. And until then, have a great rest of your day or night or week, whenever you're watching. So I'll see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. All right, bye, guys.